Yeah, and one of the things I find impressive about all of that is you kind of have a strategy and you're taking what you've learned and you'll be able to apply it. One of the things I want to touch on is, and I might hop over to the Slack community that we created over the last 6 weeks or so, and just do a bit of a screen share because I'd love your thoughts on it. Because on the one hand, there's a lot of these online communities from existing physical communities, but what we've done is we've tried to spin up a virtual community of a whole bunch of leaders that many of them haven't ever connected, but it's more connecting around a community of practice, kind of those people that you're talking about before, getting a bit of energy. So I might just share a screen real quick, and I might just get your thoughts, if I could, on that. So for those who don't know, this is the Slack community for leaders in the Australian innovation community. And it's people that we focus on, the builders, the people that are managing co-working spaces, innovation hubs, investment portfolios, local government, state government, federal government, be able to contribute, university sectors. And we break it down. There's a lot of channels in here, but those channels kind of reflect the complexity of what we refer to as the innovation ecosystem, or the innovation support and entrepreneur support networks. And so we have the roles of accelerator programs or government. We have topics such as gender or indigenous, social enterprise. And we have certain industry sectors such as agriculture and mining. And within here, of course, people can come in and they can comment, they can have conversations, they can ask for help, share about different type of topics. And it's mostly, like I said before, for the people like us, for the builders. And so, Joy, like you've come on board here, you've had a few conversations, but I know you and I spoke about also it can seem a bit daunting when you first come in, and also to kind of maintain. I'd love what's been your experience with it, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's certainly a great place to go and find someone or something that you need. And I think as you said, we've been playing in this space now. It's coming up, well, it's probably a bit over 5 years, and our physical space has been open almost 5 years, but we spent about 12 months building community beforehand here locally. But at the time, it was challenging when we were starting to find other people doing the same things much beyond our local area. And now with this sort of channel, I mean, you can find other people doing stuff all over. And I guess it's heartening to know that, yes, there's other people in other cities with about 100,000 people, or with about 10,000 people, or with 2 million people, all having a similar sort of challenges in different ways, but all being willing to share what they've learned or where they found information and connect. And yes, you're right. I look at it and it's got however many little dots on it to say you haven't read these things, and they're all bold, and it's like I kind of feel like I've got that bit of FOMO stuff happening that I don't know, because I can't keep up with it all. But if I'm looking for something, I can go find it. And that's really good. And that's one of the reasons I love Slack, is because it's searchable, and I can just put in, oh yeah, I remember this word on something I saw, and I can go find it. But from this as well, I've actually also been able to, make some connections and have some, private Zoom conversations with a few people who are, in a similar space to me, or are looking to enter the space that I play in, and where I can help them and give them suggestions and tell them what we've done, or, what's worked or not worked for us in different ways in the past. And you mentioned there's a channel there about gender, and I think I challenged you on something early in that that was there, but that was also taken in the way it was intended, to say, okay, when we're having these conversations, even in Slack, and it might not be a physical, verbal conversation, we still have to be really mindful that someone else is going to read what we've written and will interpret it in their own way. So we have to be really mindful of that in any digital community as well. So I think for the most part as well, and again, like I know I haven't read probably, I don't know, a quarter even of what's there, but knowing it is there, knowing I can go there, knowing I can ask a question and someone will respond sensitively, is actually really good and comforting, because sometimes if you ask that same question let's say on Facebook or somewhere like that, you may not get that, I guess, level of professionalism in the response, and you get, you know, stuff that just clutters the conversation as opposed to adds value to it. So I think that's probably something that I've found really helpful with this channel in particular. Plus the fact that what I like is I've been able to invite a few people in, which has been good, who are asking me for information. And it's kind of like, I'm not an oracle, I don't know, but here, join this group and you'll find what you need. So that's been really good. And then they've come back to me and said, oh, I went there and I met this person and now we're doing whatever. And it's like, awesome, that's what I want. So that's been really, really good. But I think it's also nice, just as a reminder to go, there's a lot of people in Australia doing great stuff. And sometimes you forget that in your own little bubble.
Yeah, no, that's really good feedback. Thanks for that. It's always been a bit of an experiment, and we kicked this off about 6 weeks ago. And in particular with putting so many different channels in there, because you're right, some people only are in a couple. Some people have a bit of that fear of missing out and potential overwhelm, whereas we have other ones that just, you know, they go through and they just top up every day. And they appreciate, and that's one of the reasons why we do the daily updates, where we go through and we just say, look, here's what's happening in the news, here's what's happening yesterday in the community. So people can always just go through those and get a bit of a top up, just so they can see where the activity is happening and decide where they go in, as well as doing just these daily polls that are topical. So this last week we did that focus on entrepreneurship in high schools, co-aligning with the webinar. And then next week we have one focusing on co-working and the impact of which you're on a panel next Thursday. And so some of the daily polls that we're going to be having are then around, you know, where do you think co-working is happening, and what do you think the impact's going to be moving forward? And we can ask specific questions among the community of leaders. And then even on weekends, getting a bit more relaxed and, you know, asking what kind of music you like or what are you watching on Netflix at the moment.
I watched Extraction the other day.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Well, thanks for that. Is there anything that you think we could change in here?
That's a big question. I probably couldn't say. I know that you can't change it because I'm sure it's a Slack feature, but the thing that often gets me is just how many people join a channel. Like, and you're going, okay, it's telling me there's a new post in here, but I've got to get through like 100 people have joined this channel in the last day or two. I don't know if there's a way to switch that off so you don't see all of that, but that's a whole Slack thing, I think.
I'll take a look.
No, look, I think it's probably, I don't know, it adds value at so many different levels for so many different sectors. You know, I was on a GCUC webinar during the week that I think, you know, I probably found out about through this Slack channel, I'm guessing. I can't remember exactly, but you know, on that call there was conversation there about, you know, people having co-working spaces in multi-level buildings in CBD and thinking about public transport and lifts and how they're going to manage that. And I'm like, okay, so I can run to my space or ride my bike, and we have 2 doors in and there's no lift, and we've got 2 toilets, and you know, that's it. So I don't have all of those issues, but I didn't even think that other people did. So I think this sort of space and all of those different channels really just gives people the option to go, this is what I'm interested in, this is what's impacting me. I can go to this little line and find what I need, or find people I need to talk to connect with on that. And I think that's great. So as to what it's missing, I don't know that it's missing anything. I've been able to find what I want when I want it.
Cool, thanks for that. And I love how you mentioned kind of people come in, they make the connection, and they take it offline and they add value. We're hearing more and more of those stories. How do you track that and measure that as far as impact? I guess that's the challenge of all of us as hubs, whether virtual or real, is how do you measure your real impact when you know a lot of it is just that connection they make when they're in there. We add a bit of value and they go off and then, you know, make the magic outside quite often. And it's fascinating, like, you know, you and I have kind of worked together with Fire Station 101 and Canvas and a few others, like how this is actually replicating a physical hub is amazing. as far as those conversations, the connections, the focus on a community manager needing to sit there and curate and moderate, create that culture, as you say. So that it's been a real fascinating journey on personal reflection to say, I feel like I'm running a hub again. It's just a bit of a hub of hubs.
I think it's interesting on that side of you know, of measuring, and I know, like, I studied data and analytics and stuff at university, and I loved it, and I'm a numbers person, but I've learned in this space I can't do that anymore. I can't try and measure things. Some things are just not measurable, and I've let it go. Like, I've actually just let it go. You know, what numbers do I measure anymore? You know, I know how many members we have, but it's not a measure, and I know members come and go for different reasons at different times of their journey, and I'm not worried about that anymore. You know, I mean, I used to lend people millions of dollars at a time, and I knew those numbers back to front. And when I started a co-working space and running innovation programs, I thought it was important to track how much people raised or how much revenue they were generating. It's not. So for me now, it's just about people, and you can't measure some of that stuff. So I've just stopped trying.
And just for the people listening, to clarify, when you lent people millions of dollars at a time, that was in your role with the bank, yes?
Yes, not my own money. No, I live in a little 3-bedroom house in Toowoomba. I don't have money.
But I will say, Joy, like, we can go on for like, I can talk to you about this stuff for hours, because the wisdom that you have and the value that you have from the experience is probably definitely, it's worth that much, if not more. So you've got a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share. Really appreciate it. And also, I just really appreciate your time today and all your insights.
No worries. Thank you.